Welcome back, everybody. Today we are going into our third lesson on the basics of reading music. If you have not seen the first two videos, which are about the staff and about note names, please go back and watch those if you're not super familiar with them. Get comfortable with them so that you can go on to this next part. So once we're really comfortable with our staff, and you'll notice up here today I only have the treble up, that's because note and rest values are the same in both clefs, so we don't really need to show how that works on both of them. So you know your note names, you know the parts of the staff. You could sing notes la 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 la. They would sound beautiful, but they would be boring. When we get our note and rest values going in here, that is what helps us establish a rhythm that will pull the audience in and have them tapping their toes and enjoying the piece along with you. So we're gonna proceed in 4/4 time today, and we'll talk more about time signatures later on in our lessons. It's just not quite that time yet. But since 4/4 is the most common time signature you're going to use, we're gonna use that one right now so that you can get really familiar with it. So in a 4/4 time signature, we have the two numbers here, kind of like a fraction. Yay, math and music, said no one ever. So our top note is gonna tell us how many beats are in a measure. And remember, a measure is what happens in between two bar lines. This is a measure. Contained in here, you will always have the equivalent of 4 beats in 4/4 time. Now, at the very beginning of a piece, there's not usually a bar line. It just starts from the beginning of the piece. The bottom number is gonna tell us what kind of note gets the beat. And that's what we're gonna get into today, is understanding those different kinds of notes and rests so that you can make sure that everything in each bar line that you have or in between the bar lines matches up to 4. It's just like math, but this is the easy, fun math before they started introducing letters and made all of our lives difficult. So let's take a look here at the different kinds of notes that we have. And we're gonna go from biggest to smallest that you'll see in choral music. Now, just because it's the smallest that I put it up here, doesn't mean that it's the smallest in existence. Ask any percussionist. Things get really scary for them. We're not gonna do scary. Don't love it. So we're gonna start with our biggest note value in 4/4 time and work our way down to our smallest. And then we'll do the same thing with rests, and you'll see that they do correspond, they have equals. So the first kind of note that you're going to see is a whole note. In 4/4 time, this gets 4 beats and takes up an entire measure all by itself. Sorry, that is not straight. Not very good at straight lines, don't judge. So this whole note takes up the whole measure, which is 4 beats. So you would count this one, ah. So you've got 4 beats there. No need to try to add anything up, all right? Our next note, and I'll write the whole up here. The next kind of note, we're basically just gonna take this in half. Yes, there is one in between. We'll get there later when we start talking about dotted rhythms. So we have half notes. When you cut a whole in half, you get half notes. One of these is 2 beats. 2 of them together would equal a whole. So that's our whole measure, because 2 plus 2 equals 4. All right, you see how that works? We're gonna go ahead and divide these in half again here. Our next one is the quarter note. And you guessed it, each quarter note, if you think of this like a dollar, so you've got 25 cents, 50, 75, a dollar. So each one of these is worth 1 beat. If you add them all together within these 2 bar lines, they will add up to 4 beats. So 2 of these equals 1 of these. 2 of these equals 1 of these. It's just kind of dividing downwards. The next one we're going to look at is the 8th note. And we're just dividing these in half again. So we've got 1, 2. So those are each worth a half of a beat. So that equals 1 whole beat. All right? So if we did that, those are what 8th notes look like when they're tied together. Each of them is half of a beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You might also see 8th notes that look like this or like this. And this is just when they're separated from their other half. Those are single. These are dating. Sound good? 8 8th notes will be right there. Okay? Easy peasy. The last one, and I'm not drawing 16 of them out, would be a 16th notes. And those are kind of fun because if you draw them singly, they have 2 of those little flags there. And if you put them together, like our 8th notes, and you add another bar here, that's how you can tell. And we count those 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. 4 of these equals 2 of these. 2 of these equals 1 of these. 2 of these equal 1 of these. And 2 of these equal 1 of those. So it's just fractions as you get going. So 4 16th notes equals 1 beat. Easy peasy. Just remember, everything in between your bar lines in 4/4 time signature is going to add up to 4 beats. All right? Let's come back over here. Erase that so I have a little space here. We're going to draw another treble clef. And there's a lot of ways to draw the treble clef. I personally enjoy swirling it around the note G, coming up and down. And yes, I have had a lot of practice over the years doing that. So let's look at our rests in 4/4 time signature. Okay, the first one that we're going to start with, same as this, is a whole rest. The whole rest is drawn by making a little rectangle underneath the bar line, or not the bar, the third line on the staff usually. That's the one I do. When it's by itself, it has a little line here. I like to think of this one as you're driving down the road and you fall into a pothole. So it's kind of like a hole in the road. If this is your road, and you fall into it. So this is a whole rest. And it gets 4 beats, same as its counterpart up here. So we divide that in half. And all we do is flip it over, add our little lines here. And we have half rests. Okay? So this gets 2 beats, this gets 2 beats, equals 4. 2 of those equals 1 of those. Quarter rests, these are kind of tricky to draw. They're fun too. They're like a fancy 3. And you don't have to get really technical with them. That's not how I roll. But each of these gets 1 beat. And they will add up to 4 as well. All right, moving along, we get into 8th rests. And those are cute. They look like that. It's like a 7 with a little dot on the end. 8 of those equals 1 whole. These are half of a beat. There will be the equivalent of 8 of them in a measure. And then we get over to the demon rest, the 16th. And it's just one of these, and then you give him a mustache. All right, here in the middle. And that is, all right. All right, So we count these the same as we do up here on the notes. Rests are just as important as the notes in the music that you sing, because sometimes the silence makes things more interesting. A piece last year that Cantare did, Chili con Carne, incorporated a lot of these different syncopated rhythms. Now, you can add different types in to make your music more interesting, as long as it all adds up to whatever this top number says here in your time signature, you're good. So if you're planning on writing music, math is gonna be a big component of this. If you're using some software, it'll usually prompt you to make sure that you have enough beats within your measures so that you don't make a silly boo-boo, but don't think it doesn't happen to people. Even some of the biggest, best choral composers out there still make silly mistakes, and we catch it while we're singing. So, math and music. If your math teacher or anyone ever asks, hey, does Mrs. Parrott teach you, how does Mrs. Parrott tie in your other classes to choir? Math is in music, y'all. Fractions, important. And it pains me to say that. So make sure everything adds up, and you can create yourself some really fun, interesting music by combining these and making fun rhythms to go along with the beautiful notes.